Hello gang, a very warm welcome to another instalment from the channel that is Jono's Graveyard Jaunts. Now on my channel this far I've created two videos on giants, both the Ilkeston Giant and the Blackburn Giant, who were 7 feet 4.5 inches and 7 feet 9.3 inches in height respectively. Now I'll add a link to those videos in the description in case you may want to view them. Now today's video is about another giant who grew to a staggering height of just over 8 feet, surpassing both the Ilkeston and Blackburn giants in stature. His real name was James Toller, or the Eynesbury Giant as he became known. He was born in St Neots, Cambridgeshire. Now the first map shows where the county of Cambridgeshire sits in relation to the UK, and the second map shows where St Neots sits in relation to the county of Cambridgeshire itself. Now in today's video I shall visit the location in St Neots where the cottage used to stand that James Toller grew up in, and there is now a plaque on the wall adjacent where the cottage used to stand. I will add a picture of how the cottage used to look when we are at the site. I shall also visit the church and churchyard in St Neots where the local rector used to allow James Toller to walk in the Rectory gardens to avoid being seen by members of the public. And finally I shall visit inside the nave of the church where James is actually buried. Now there is a plaque on the floor, although after speaking to the church secretary they're not sure if James is actually buried right beneath the plaque, but they can confirm he is buried in the church nave. Now the reason James was buried in the church was because he had a huge fear that after death his body may have been exhumed by body snatchers, plus there were also concerns if your body had been dissected after death then you may not get into heaven. So who was James Toller then? James Toller was born in Eynesbury, St Neots in 1798. His parents were both of an average height and he lived in a small cottage near the old rectory. So here's the plaque erected to commemorate where James Toller lived. James Toller, 1798-1818, over 8 feet tall, known as the Eynesbury Giant, lived in Rectory Lane, Eynesbury, buried inside the parish church, erected by St Neots Local History Society. So what we'll do is we'll look to the left. Now we know the cottage used to stand there, because it says this sign was erected adjacent where the cottage used to be, so that's where we know it used to stand. And what I'll do is I'll put a picture up. We'll just move further down. So this car park then is where the cottage used to stand, and I'll put that picture up now so you can cross-reference it. And there's the sign, and it said that sign was erected adjacent where the property used to stand, which would strongly suggest just here. And by the age of 10, James was already 5 feet or 153 centimetres tall. And by the time he was 18 years old, he was said to be over 8 feet or 244 centimetres tall. His feet were 15 inches in length. In 1815, he was exhibited in London and was presented to the Emperor of Russia, and the King of Prussia. His great size was noted in various publications, and in one drawing he was shown next to a Dutch dwarf called Simon Papp, who was only 28 inches or 70 centimetres tall. Now after touring the country in a show, he enlisted in the Life Guards, but his health was not good and he had to leave the army and return to Eynesbury. He died on the 4th of February 1818 when he was just a mere 20 years of age. And it was rumoured that a doctor had offered £20, a year's wages for an ordinary working person, for James's body so that it could be dissected, and his family feared that his body might be stolen by body snatchers once he had been buried, hence him being buried in the church nave at the local church. So we're now in St Mary the Virgin Church in Eynesbury. What we're looking at now is the plaque on the floor that was erected in the memory of James Toller. And what we do know is he's actually buried in the church itself, but we don't know if he's actually buried below this plaque specifically. But if we just read it, near this place, all that is mortal of James Toller, the Eynesbury Giant, who died 4th of February 1818, aged 21 years, 8 foot 1.5 inches in height. So this is the beautiful inside of the church. And as I say, we do know that James Toller was actually buried in the nave somewhere beneath the floor, but we're not quite sure where. So as I say, we did 2 other videos on giants, and James Toller was by far the tallest in stature. Many stories have been told about James Toller since his death, about how he could walk along the streets of St Neots and Eynesbury and chat with people through their bedroom windows, or pass by public houses along the high street and reach up and swing the signboards. Now, a local shoemaker in Eynesbury was said to have a pair of Toller's shoes that he displayed in his shop, but these have never been found to date. That concludes the video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment on the channel. It is free to subscribe and obviously helps the channel to grow and means we can venture further afield to produce ever more interesting content for you as the viewer. Thank you for watching.